Today we're going to do something a little bit different. I'm going to showcase some games with a low player base that I think deserve some love. Over the last few weeks I've been scouring SteamDB, looking at any game that had a rating of 70% or higher with less than 1,000 reviews, trying to find some, hidden gems that nobody had really given a chance, and here's the ones that I found. The first one we've got is not Garry's Mod, it's a subsection game mode of Garry's Mod called Gmod Racer, which is almost impossible to find and you cannot really find in the normal server selection as you can see here. So if you do want to try this game out, have a look over on their Discord, I'll leave a link in the description below. And without further ado, this is the first look that you guys can have of Gmod Racer. It's a game that I played probably about 10 years ago for the first time ever, and it was a lot more populated back then than it is now, but I still find it really enjoyable and great fun to play in general. The biggest reason why this game is suffering player base wise, it stems from Garry's Mod getting update which killed the game mode completely, and it wasn't until recent times that X-Wing, who was kind enough to give me an interview, and Doc Kilborn decided to revive this. And you'll see on the screen now me starting that interview with X-Wing, who's kind enough to answer a few questions on what made him remake Gmod Racer and how that journey began, essentially. He stated that the reason was nostalgia, and I can't really agree enough with that reason. When I first rebooted the game up again for 10 years, I felt this huge wave of nostalgia wash over me. So much so that I have been playing since the recording of these videos, which was over 2 weeks ago, and I'm still on the server now. You'll probably see me if you go and try it out today. Which brings me on to the next question I asked, which was, what would you say to someone who wanted to try the game out for the first time? And he said it's quite fun with a lot of people, but it's a bit of a grind and you need some determination. And I really felt that while I was playing, because I was always in last place and these guys have been playing for a long time. They had all of the upgrades. Luckily, they were nice enough to let me win a few races so I could earn some money. And there is the occasional new player that you can race with as well, so it wasn't all bad, but the vast majority of the time I was in last place in most of these races. Here's a quick look at the upgrade menu for anyone interested on how expensive the items are in comparison to how much you actually earn each race. And you'll notice that what he was saying is true. It's a pretty long grind for all of the upgrades. But I did get a quick tips and tricks for you guys from the man himself, who said you should upgrade the engine and the exhaust first, and that'll give you the best starting boost. And that wraps up all the questions that I asked X-Wing. I didn't want to take up too much of his time. I'm sure that he would have answered a lot more if I decided that I want to irritate him more, but I thought I'd leave him to it and just enjoy the rest of the game. Here's a really cool Portal-themed map that I was playing, and I thought I'd seen pretty much everything in this game. For the first day, I played a few hours, and there was never more than 4 or 5 people on, but then slowly the word got out that I was making a YouTube video, and everyone in their community server sort of banded together to try and make it as fun as possible, and I really love that they did this. So here's the clip here of me with a hell of a lot of people, way more than they usually get in the server. And I could really feel the difference. This is how the game was meant to be played for sure. The speed of the other people's cars suddenly mattered so much less. People were swerving off left and right, crashing into each other, dropping mines and exploding each other. And I found an actual opportunity to not be in last place due to the pure chaos and fun that the high player base created, really. So if you have a spare hour or two just to check out this game, I would really appreciate it. I think it deserves a lot more love than it gets currently, and the Noxious Gamers server is really welcoming, and I'm sure that they'll be happy to have you and guide you through anything that you're confused with. So yeah, have a look at that and try it out, and let me know what you think in the comments if you do. During my time, we also helped out a guy named Dan, who was somehow a newer player than I was, and he had 0 upgrades, completely nothing, and was getting destroyed in all the races. And me and one of the donators to the server were always deliberately following him and finishing behind him so we could earn extra money from coming further up the pack. And I thought that was just really wholesome and a good representation of the community as a whole, because the same thing happened to me when I joined. The same characters like X-Wing got me my starting cash just by letting me win the first couple of races, and I think it's got really good vibes, this community, so it is definitely worth checking out. And if the server is empty, feel free to hit me up in my own Discord, and I will happily join you and show you what fun that this game can be. And that is the end of our talking about Gmod Racer, and moving on to the next game. For our second game, we have Aberoth. This choice was inspired by Rye Games, a YouTuber who does similar content, exploring games that people have never played. And shout out to him, and shout out to the recommendation to join in and play this game, because although the player base is low, I'm having a lot of fun with it currently, and also it's another game that I'm still playing today. And you'll see me here in the starting dungeon, taking an embarrassing amount of time to try and work out what I'm supposed to do. And I'll also be the first to admit something also quite embarrassing. It says in the bottom left, you'll probably notice, type champion to, make your character a champion and then be able to name yourself. And what I routinely kept trying to do was type out what I wanted my champion's name to be. So I was walking around half of the game typing out just the words "The Game Gateway," hoping that it would work, and it never did, and the message kept popping up until I finally slapped myself in the forehead like 30 minutes into the game before I realized that that's not what I was supposed to do. And I'll be the first to laugh at myself about that as well, and hopefully you'll laugh along with me. But after a while, I did finally get my footing with how the game worked, how to get quests from NPCs. I earned myself the life skill. I finally locked in my champion's name. And I couldn't, at the time, see why the game had such a low player base. So I did a little bit of research into it. And it was the same review again and again, with different names saying the same thing. The community was to blame. All of the high-end players were trolling the low-end players, not letting new players room to breathe and killing them on site anytime that they logged into the world. This seemed to be stemming from no new content from the game developer, and that led to boredom, which has led to trolling, and has led to quite a seemingly toxic environment for the community right now. But I'd just like to say that wasn't my experience of Aberoth at all. I've got 7.4 hours on Steam right now, which isn't a lot, granted, but in that 7.4 hours, I've ran past several people, one of which was extremely, extremely helpful to me, and just showed me everything that I needed to know as a beginner, and I thought that was just really nice. And maybe since that video that Rye Games made, there's been a slight change of heart in the community and a more welcoming environment. So I'd like to give a quick shout out to Koga here on the game, who helped me defeat one of the bosses in the game that I never would have been able to beat by myself. And he also showed me everything in the game that a beginner might want to know. How to engrave my items, how to also, buy a vault if I needed to, where to buy stuff in the shop. He was super, super helpful. And was also cool enough to show me what was in his vault, which looked like a lot. I mean, I have no concept of real wealth in the game. I've only ever seen gold coins, but I have to assume from the size of the stacks in this vault that it is a lot of money. So thank you again to Koba, who showed me around and tried to beat the negative review allegations that the community was toxic. I didn't get that impression, and it is entirely thanks to you, so thank you again. Hopefully I'll see him one day out fighting orcs alongside me, but you know, I didn't see many other players in the game. The player base is still to this day very, very low. So I do recommend checking it out. Come and join me, join my Discord, say you want to play Aberoth, and I'll jump in with you, and we'll play some co-op together the way it was meant to be played. But for now, we'll have to move on to the next game. Retrocycles is not a big Steam game, and in fact, it has never been a big Steam game, with a peak all-time players of 26 2 years ago. This game never had its time in the sun, and it averages around 10 players at the moment, but frequently fluctuates throughout the day to 0. Right now we're on 0, and the 24-hour peak we've had 5 people. It is, however, really, really fun, and I'm going to get into why I think it's fun and why I think you guys should play it. The first reason is I just don't think this is another multiplayer Tron clone like you can find anywhere. There's so many custom modes that you can find online here, and if it weren't for a lacking player base, it could be so fun to try out all of these modes with, you know, a lot of different people. I did have the good fortune to jump in on someone else's game and just tag along. So shout out to Big Papa and all of his company for letting me hop in on there. I think they were doing a LAN tournament, they said, while we were chatting, and they gave me a chance to experience the game, because otherwise I would have just been playing against AI. There wasn't really any people online, and the ones that were, they were private servers, so when you tried to join, you needed either a password or to join a Discord and verify, and, you know, there were 18 steps to just try and play the game. But these guys here, Big Papa and all of his friends, were quite happy just to let me hop in and join them, and I actually did quite well, actually. I surprised myself. There were a few mechanics of the game that I didn't quite understand, and Big Papa was running me through them. Like, I didn't understand how you could speed up in the game, and it turns out that you have to follow someone else's trail very, very closely. And to slow down, it's like the S key to brake, and I didn't know either of those things. So in the first few games I was getting destroyed, but once I worked out the mechanics, it really started coming together. And if anyone would like to play it, please hit me up. I'd love to play this again. I have tried to go and open it on Steam and not found anyone online to play with recently, so given the chance, I would definitely leap at the opportunity. And that brings us to the end of our game selection. I'd like to give some honourable shout-outs to Sanctum 2, and also to a few other games that I tried, like Subspace and Mind Night, for example. Mind Night especially was a little disappointing. I really couldn't actually find a game. I tried multiple times, knocked on the door on the Discord and been like, please let me try this game. I didn't actually get the opportunity to play it, so if you see this video and you want to play Mind Night with me, please hit me up for that as well. And yeah, that's all I've got to say. Thank you so much for watching, everyone. Like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.